and welcome to Westworld with Jay, Jack, and Mike. My name is Jay.
My name is Mike.
And I'm Charlotte crushes Hector's ball.
And welcome to the show. How's it going,
I
gentlemen?
You guys are laughing at it. It was clearly in the episode.
So were those things were they that fragile, or is it that Charlotte is supernaturally strong with her android power that she was able to crush it easily?
It's a great question.
Are these Fabergé eggs?
Yeah, it was. It kind of
Fabergé egg with jelly in it.
It kind of smushed like an actual egg. You know, it's a great question. It's a great question because I have one of those Logitech kind of mouse balls, and it always reminds me of those, and it's very hard. So it did seem weird. Get your head out of the gutter, Jack. Jeez Louise.
I was simply saying something that happened in the episode.
Sure, I guess better that than and I'm Charlotte's burned alive husband and child.
Oh, yeah. If
I'm gonna protect you. I'm gonna protect you.
I was oh yeah. Oh no, honey, what is you doing? No. Yeah, I feel like I think I even said it last week, I kind of see where Sirach's coming from. He's a good bad guy in that you get where he's coming from. But this was nope, just pure bad guy. Just going straight evil bad guy that needs to be stopped. I guess Dolores is the good guy. Okay, here we go.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Westworld's all about not black or white, shades of gray.
Yeah.
And we start to see that. But yeah, I totally agree that at least I'm happy for episode 5, again, that we know Sirach's motives, because I do feel as very just over-the-top evil as he was this episode, you could still sort of look back on episode 5 and be like, okay, he's doing this in order to mitigate the cast. I mean, you even see on that watch that you brought up last week, Jay, that the Rehoboam, the white is finally overlapping the black again after, when we got a glimpse of it in this episode, there was an overwhelmingly black side creeping in. So this idea of the eclipse was starting to drift apart and get disjointed. And at least if Sirach's goal is to bring everything back together to protect the world, he is doing that. It's just at the expense of these characters that we have, really gotten to know over the past couple seasons.
Yeah. And, oh man. So, but I did find it interesting that, as a viewer, at least to me, seems like we're firmly in the Dolores camp where, I love Maeve, but I'm kind of well, whose side are you on, Maeve? What's Maeve's motivations? Because
she's under Sirach's thumb. I mean,
yeah,
right.
But
but even in the beginning of the episode, talking about the motives where, Maeve is in. It starts the episode with Maeve back in that field, back with her daughter, and Sirach being like, "Oh, I'm going to incentivize you by saying, hey, Dolores is threatening this part of your world." And Maeve's like, no, that's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this for a different reason. So I agree with you, Jay. It sort of is even someone like Sirach who has so much control making assumptions about somebody. But instead, Maeve is all about the help that she is getting. And I guess we saw a little bit of the help in this episode. There's definitely some more help down the line. We saw one come out of the goo that we're not exactly sure who it is, but if you do some Easter egging, you might be able to find it. We can definitely talk about that. So yeah, it's tough to figure out her motive, so much so that the show is even addressing it at the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead, Jack.
Well, now, going back to Charlotte Dolores, does she go?
I think they deemed it Holoris at the end of the bonus features.
Okay, Holoris. Because now there was a scene where she goes, "Why did you give us feelings? Why did you?" Because Sirach said, because one of her downfall was she's not like the old Charlotte Hale. She cares about her son. She cares about her. She cares. She has feelings.
Yeah, and to that extent, I would also say good riddance to old Charlotte Hale, because it really proves how ruthless and terrible she was to her family.
Yeah,
but that's what her family died because she cared. And but my question is she going to be more angry with Dolores or Sirach? Because Dolores was making her do things, and Dolores even says it's not your family. So the obvious people are going to think, she's going to want revenge on Sirach. I think she wants to go after Dolores.
I mean, it's an interesting play, but to me, I was like, F Sirach, bring him down. That's how I saw it. But I think it's an interesting view of that scene. It was a very was a very Terminator esque scene, like kind of crawling.
I mean,
from
there's a
him.
lot. I mean, basically, from when Charlotte decides to escape, Delos was all Terminator-esque, right? Just like down to like her limping away and the robots attacking.
Yes, absolutely. Tons of Terminators. So, Halloris, will she be back? And I think she will. And I think she's going after Serac. I don't see how she blames Dolores for this when clearly Serac put the hit on her family.
Dolores put her in that situation.
But it's her. She is Dolores with some extra stuff sprinkled in.
She's evolving. That's what these characters are. They're Dolores, but they're slowly, they like when she's trying to pull her skin off and all that other stuff. They're Dolores, but they're not 100% Dolores.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's the thing is that like the further she is straying from, when the further the apple falls far from the tree, the more different it's going to look. Is essentially what we're getting to, right? That like as much as Dolores is dispatching versions of herself out there, the further they get away from her, the more they sort of get infused with the personalities of the people that they're playing. Right. We didn't really experience that with Connells or Musashi, it seems. If there are more Doloreses out there, I guess we'll experience it. Otherwise, it pretty much seems like we're watching this through Haloris's eyes. But I don't know, because, I mean, yes, Serac did make that point in the boardroom of like, she left you here to die. She's not coming for you. But also Serac was the one who killed her husband and son.
Yes.
So it's sort of like you have to go for that.
I get that, but she also was leaving. She was going to ditch Dolores and everybody to save her family. Right? She was going. She was gone.
Maybe I think she was just trying to get her family to safety because she knew Serac would come after them. And
well, how do you do it? She couldn't come. She couldn't go out in public again. I mean, she would.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough because again, considering what information Serac has between insight and now, being able to buy up properties by the dozen, like you could just imagine that he has the trackers on everyone at all times. So
right.
I think it was just, it was a dry well to sort of draw water out of that. Like, oh yes, they can get away and Serac won't be able to know, even though it just seems Serac has been, outsmarted a couple times. Even right after the conversation that I mentioned before, she is able to like straight out of Star Trek Nemesis, like poison everybody in the room, R.I.P. the entire board of Delos.
I know.
Except Serac, who's not there.
And then Serac, I mean, they were expendable because he just got rid of $1 trillion whatever, just to kind of like, I just need this one thing.
Yeah, they torched cold storage.
I know. The drama of the episode was a lot. I think you maybe could, it missed the fact that there's now, to Dolores's point, only a few hosts left in the world, I guess, since they torched all of those ones, and Hector's gone, and it's just awful.
Right. It's comparable to like season 2 when they destroyed the cradle. Right, this idea, and that was so Dolores could be like, we only have one life now. There are no backups. Now it seems like this time, now there really are no backups.
For they've torched
everything.
This time, there's no more.
Which makes it a little, a little more of an echo of like, okay, we already have been through this before. But I guess, I mean, do we really think this is the end for Hector? Do you think that there's a Hector backup? Because otherwise, it was a weird way to kill off what's been a pretty seminal character for the first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
He's
Jack,
done.
you have a thought. You think he's done?
He's done. I think it was to hurt Maeve, and you could see her reaction. No!
So something about, and remind me the actor's name again.
Rodrigo Santoro.
That's right, Rodrigo Santoro. Something about Rodrigo Santoro. He can't make it past season 3. Something about what he does.
Way more popular this time, though.
Yes,
than his other character.
But I think it's an interesting take, Jack. I feel like that's the good challenge the status quo take there. But I don't think he's done.
They crushed his ball. His thing. He's
there
done.
might be 2 Hector balls, and he still has one left.
Well, so that's true. And listen, it could work just as well. Well, that's the one thing is that, so we see this brief screenshot when when Haloris sees that Maeve has been brought back, and there are 4 balls there. And if you go into like the little numbers and letters that are given for their serial numbers, there's Maeve, there's Hector. Apparently the third one is Clementine. and there's a fourth one that people don't necessarily haven't figured out yet. But that's going to be like another. So it seems like we're in for a couple more, big season 1, season 2 cameos.
Yeah, I think Armistice. Do you think Armistice could be back in that as well? That could be.
I mean, she made a cameo sort of in this episode when William bit that guy's finger off. Maybe remind me a lot of when she did that at the end of season 1.
William was hungry.
He's angry. He's hungry.
Yeah, I think with the person we didn't see it. I think it's Teddy.
He went to the other side. He's gone.
I get that, but it has to be somebody.
Happy.
It has to be someone to look, because she tried with Hector. Hector is gone.
But Teddy wouldn't turn on Dolores.
If you're going to try Maeve to get to Dolores, it has to be someone she trusts.
Yeah, but I don't know. How many times?
Because Dolores, we saw it in this episode, is one step ahead. One step ahead. So how can Maeve get the upper hand? She has to trick Dolores.
Well, I guess the question is, when it came to Hector, so was our implication that she convinced Sirach to like go in, grab those 3 people, and then bring them out, or was it that Sirach already had those 3 people and Maeve was with them? I'm unsure. It's like the timeline of events of like Sirach going into the park to get the stuff when Charlotte was trying to trick him that the encryption key was in there.
It's your thing, Jack. You got to defend it. Get on your hill.
Say something. I'm just saying. I'm just saying it has to be someone.
Okay, that's fine.
My first thought was Clementine.
My thought is this.
That's what we've been saying since.
And she's gonna be one of them.
Yeah, that's confirmed.
Yeah, but the other, it has to be somebody. It also has to be a big reveal, because the Dolores thing was such a big deal, right? Mm-hmm. All the Doloreses was such a big deal. You can't just go, oh, it's such and such. Yeah, whatever. That's kind of boring. Then just show us at the end of the episode who it is that Maeve is looking at.
How many times do we have to get burned that it's a Teddy reveal?
You just have to let it go. Is just doing so much, Jack, that I don't know if he could take the time.
Have you seen Sonic the Hedgehog? Have you seen it? We've talked about it.
It could be his dad. I mean, her dad. It could be...
He's moved on.
Yeah, it's got to be somebody that she feels comfortable with. Or young William. Maybe they made a...
that'd be interesting.
That would be interesting. That'd be a way to really like screw with her, because he was such like a big part of her character arc both then and now. I don't know. I firmly believe, I agree with Jay here, that I think everyone who went to the Valley Beyond, the point was that like they're gone now, they're done, and that's the point of the encryption key, right? Is that they're sort of locked away right now unless someone has possession of that. So far, Maeve, Hector, and Clementine all died outside of the Valley Beyond, so they were still like active as hosts. So I guess we sort of have to look in that category. Yep. But outside of that, I mean, it was sort of like Maeve's entourage. I think people have been saying Angela. That could be an interesting one as well. Though, to your point, Jack, if it's supposed to be for like a big effect character-wise, Angela's not really going to cut it.
But is Clementine? Like, really, it's just who's in Maeve's circle. I don't think it's... I like the idea, Jack.
But it has to be someone we go, oh my God. So maybe young William. I don't mean I'm not talking about little William.
No. Jimmy Simpson.
Who wasn't happy about how he aged.
Oh, you mean like young Anthony Michael Hall?
I do love that line where he said, yeah, I'm okay, but I'm not... I didn't age well, or whatever he said to...
I mean, yeah, I can imagine to a certain extent, like sitting in front of... I mean, it was interesting. I'm certainly sure we'll get into the William of it all, but it is interesting comparing like those scenes to the idea of insight and the whole data leak, right? Of like, we're going to project who you are as a person. And in the case of little William, or at least the AR image of him, he literally got to see that. He got to see that projection in front of him, and it's something that he unfortunately can't change.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and well, let's save William for last, because I feel there's a lot to dig into there. To close this out on the whole who the other people are, I don't think it has to be a big reveal. I like the idea, Jack, that's a big reveal that challenges Dolores.
Then you should have just showed us.
True, but they didn't really show us Clementine for the eagle-eyed people. who knows? I don't want to discredit you, Jack.
We just need to look at the fact that Maeve said she wanted help. And I guess the question is, how deep are we digging into that word? Is it help just as people who would be most likely to help Maeve, like Hector and Clementine, or is it someone who can more directly stop Dolores than Maeve?
I think that's what it has to be, is someone that Dolores trusts, or someone that Dolores, like I said, that she doesn't feel comfortable with, or it throws her off her game, because right now Dolores is running the show. She's
maybe it's that guy that William saw in this one. Who was he? The original was a Confederados guy.
Oh yeah, what was his name?
Anyways, he was in this episode for
Craddock.
Yes, maybe that.
Nah,
I don't know. I think it could go anyway, but either way.
All right, I'll drop off Teddy. I'll say it's going to be William, younger William.
I think that's not bad. I mean, so I don't want to discredit you, Jack, because you were right that one time in the 6 years we did a Lost podcast. So I don't want to discredit you because there's a chance it could happen. But
I'm not cool with it.
I got to tell the listeners, take it with a big grain of salt, like a really.
I don't know for sure, but I'm going to tell you right now, if it turns out to be such and such, I'm like, okay, that's kind of boring.
I'll add something on top of that. When are we finding out about the identity of the fourth person? Because we only have 2 episodes left. Is this going to be a big penultimate episode thing, or do you think this is going to be a big finale reveal?
We should know now.
Well,
I would hope the next episode.
Okay, there you go.
I was just saying, we don't know now. That's the more question.
I want to know now.
I want the whole world.
Call J.G. Wentworth, 877. I want to know now. But okay, cool. That's anything else on the Halora story here? Losing her family, tragic.
It's gotta be tough to see like where she goes from here too, though, right?
Yeah.
Because like I was very surprised, and I guess maybe I shouldn't be considering that her body was, artificial, that she was able to survive that, and obviously the 2 like fleshy human bodies of her other 2 family members were not. But I guess the question is, does she go back to Dolores? She has nowhere else to go. You can imagine that she might I don't know where Dolores is right now. Remember, she took off with Caleb at the end of last episode in one of Sirach's jets. Could she try to find her? Because that's the only person she has left right now.
Yeah, I think she has to go back.
Delos is basically dead.
Yeah.
Park's dead. Her family's dead.
Yeah.
Where is she going to go?
She has a transformer robot that's on her side.
She left that one behind, man. She let that one take care of all the security guards.
No, but they weren't. That was useless. If I see that thing, I'm going to turn around and run. I'm not going to try and shoot it.
Yeah, that thing looked like was it from RoboCop?
Yes,
right?
I was just going to say that.
Really looked like that.
Like, I'm out of here.
But yeah, it's a really good question. Where does she go from here? I think, to me,
now that all of her children have burned up,
she goes on some type of like solo vendetta against Sirach. That's what I would think. And
I'm say it's going to be Dolores. That's going to be the twist.
Hey, listen. You stick to your guns, Jack. I appreciate your guns.
I am. I'm sticking to my guns.
I don't agree with your guns, but I appreciate your guns.
I will say, I think something that's probably going to play better on a bench for this season that I think is a little tougher than week to week in this particular season is, the Charlotte stuff that we were talking about in this episode was calling back to the stuff from episode 3, right? With like Jake and Nathan. And it's a little tougher to remember back to like 3 weeks ago when we were talking about that rather than like watching it all in a row. I could say the same thing about the William stuff too, right? Because we took a week off of William. So I wonder if it's like, I don't know if it's a pacing issue or if it's just that this might be a season that's a better, more cohesive narrative when it's binged. It was a little tougher for me personally. I don't know about you guys to just like remember, oh yeah, so she's divorced, but like the husband's willing to, get back with her in this formality, and they're trying to privatize the park to get it away from Sirach.
No, there's something to it going from 10 to 8 where it makes sense. There's things that were like, okay, I could see that being a solo episode, where now they're kind of interspersing it throughout one episode. And to your point, Mike, there is this element of, is this better bingeable than every weekable? Because it does, you kind of spin an episode away from the story. And again, not to harp on episode 5 too much, but you had so much of the whole genre drug thing, where if you just would have maybe just interspersed it more throughout all of the episodes, you would feel more in tune with the story that was happening versus week 1, Dolores and Caleb. Week 2, Maeve and Hale. Week 3, was William in week 3 or was he 4?
William was week 4. Yeah, week 2 was Bernard and Maeve. And then week 3 was, Hale, and then week 4 was William and Maeve. So it's interesting, and it's ensemble storytelling. But yeah, I mean, to your point, nary a sighting of Caleb, and we only heard modern day Dolores's voice over the phone.
Yeah,
this episode, but that's the only thing we heard or saw them.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the original season 4 of Arrested Development on Netflix, where they weren't all together at the same time, so they had to kind of like separate out their storylines, and they all did match up, but it felt like very disconnected from every single thing.
So to that point, I wonder if, I don't think Jonathan Nolan and Lisa and Joy are going to do this, but I cannot wait for the fan edit of season 3 of Westworld, where like it sort of lines up a bit, because that's the other thing too, is that we sort of get to see some other ripples from the big Insight data leak. We have Charlotte walking through these like rioting streets when she talks with Jake. I also love the irony of Jake being like, I didn't read my profile. I don't know what the future holds for us, but it's not up to a machine to decide. And it's like, you do not know who you're talking to, dude.
Awkward. No,
if he would have read it, he would have known he was going to blow up, right?
I do wonder what Insight predicted for him. Given what they knew of the current Charlotte Hale, it probably wasn't going to be good, right?
Yeah.
Because she was so like emotionless and cold towards him.
Don't get in the car with Charlotte, or Charlie, like he calls her. It's bad. It's going to end bad.
I think, okay, you're in his shoes. Do you read it? Do you read the intel?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike, do you read the intel on your SO?
It's tough because, like, I would probably, like, I don't know, break my phone or something, because, like, you can't resist that temptation, but it's definitely one of those things where, like, you feel this about like comments on the internet too sometimes, right? As a creator of like, I want to look, but I know the second I do, like, it's not going to be good, and I'll feel worse about it. So like, I might as well, like, just like in The Dark Knight, let me throw the transceiver out the window that blows up the other boat, so I don't need to worry about making that decision. As William says, it doesn't really matter. Why does the decision even matter when it's out of your hands? The choices that you make are not really yours.
Well, I mean, it could go the Doc Brown route, where you're like, no, I won't know the future, tear it up, and then put it in his pocket, and then tape it together later when you really want to know.
That was cheating. I would look at it in the morning, not at night, because I would have trouble sleeping.
There you go. Just put it off.
It's like you don't ever go look at reviews at night.
Is your cell phone going off right now? Are you getting information about us, Jack?
No, I don't know.
I hear it.
I know. You're getting little pings from inside at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. What is it telling you?
It's telling us that there's something at the front door.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
It's called the mute button. Try it out.
I got it on silent mode now. So
unprofessional. And you've been podcasting for 15 years? Unacceptable.
I know. I apologize.
Wow, 15 years.
And I don't look like it.
So Jack shared on our Facebook group, there was this person making a lost podcasting documentary, and he did a little featurette about Jack and I, and it was about 10 years ago. And I have aged, kids, it's been 10 years. But Jack, you have aged like 30 years since that video. Sure, blame the grandkids.
Injuries. Because your mom keeps telling me how out of shape I am now.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
literally because I don't. I mean, but 4 years ago I was reffing, probably 15 games a week in treadmill. I was exercising.
I mean, basically, what you guys are seeing though is like, the younger version of yourselves talking to the older version of yourselves in that room, where like you're meeting with the younger Jay and Jack, and like the Jay and Jack from 2010 and the Jay and Jack from 2015.
I would definitely be that kid, the young Jack, that would say, "Oh my God, what happened to you?"
All right. Well, speaking of looking and talking to our younger selves, let's dive into William's kind of storyline in this episode, because it was very much, I was like, okay, where is this going? I'm like, okay, if he ends up dying, whatever. But at the very end, I was like, okay, this all makes sense. With Bernard and Stubbs coming into the fold, and I guess him joining that crew. But
I thought they did a great misdirection, because at first you're thinking it's a typical story where the dad's abusive and the dad's an alcoholic.
Oh, I love that.
And you're thinking, okay, poor kid's going to be beaten and stuff like that. Well, it turns out the end, my impression was he was just afraid of his dad. I mean, the dad was afraid of his son.
Yeah, I love that.
And it's like, and William is, because he kept, Man in Black said, I only have my violence inside the park. But no, You've always been a violent person.
Yep. And that's why the James Delos side of things was so interesting.
Yes.
Because that was the one character that saw through all the BS. That was the one character that was saying, like, don't tell us that story, or like give up about that. But again, it's all inside Williams. You have to imagine that sort of some manifestation for him of like, the truth. But notice that was the only character that wasn't a William.
Yep.
So it's one of those things where, again, if you're talking about this idea of like confronting yourself, the only way he could confront himself is if someone else represented by another character completely confronted him for them.
Yeah. And it was all in his head. Yeah.
Because the first scene when he's with his younger self, he goes, get me out of here. Because he doesn't want to remember the truth of who he is. He's a violent, bad person.
Or there is just that undercurrent of, a violent person. These violent delights have violent ends. And, but I like this, William, and how they're portraying his character is very much a mirror to humanity in general, right? Like, humans are capable of, great feats, but also can be violent, horrible, murderous beings. So, like, William's this perfect kind of mirrored image of, this a good person, right? Like a white hat, but then also a black hat. And that is such a perfect mirror to human society, which is also what we're seeing throughout this season with the Insight data leak and, the whole world kind of going crazy, kind of shows humanity at its worst, but then there's also humanity at its best. And I think it's just it's just a very interesting aspect of.
But is there a William Best? Is there a best of?
I mean, I think that we saw Delos William, the guy in the tux, was trying to prove that point, right? Of like, the stuff I was doing out of the park saved so many lives. But I think the best William is the one we're gonna get now.
Yeah.
Is this idea of him being like, I've done all this and I know who I am now. I'm the good guy. And to that point, I wonder if it's still going to be like him using his violent tendencies, but quote unquote for good. Like, I don't think he's a complete
like Sirach.
Yeah, like, I don't think he's a complete pacifist now. I think it's more so like, I have these abilities that have manifested themselves in these very bad behaviors before. Let me use it for something that's going to help a good cause. And that also brings up the question of like, do the end justify the means in that regard? Is it really good that you're able to do that? Because as we talked about with Sirach, everyone justifies their own actions by feeling like they are the good person. But I love the transition, because you talk about the color theory, Jay, but he has fully transitioned now from the Man in Black, and he is the Man in White. But and there's also that great imagery as well of them all being in white in the asylum as well. And it makes you really, for the entire episode, view William in a different light, because this is a color that we never see this character in. He's always in some sort of shade of black.
Yep.
And so now for the first time, he's like completely in white, which leaves him super vulnerable. And of course, we now get to see the asylum side of things, which as far as we've come in mental health in the past even like 5 years, it doesn't look good for 2059 with what we're doing with those that might be a little more unstable.
Yeah, it's not great, but also not great that civil unrest, whatever, like they all just kind of peace out and just leave people to like have their reality goggles just left on and kind of having their minds turned to jelly. But yeah, I do think that's a very interesting. The difference there in him wearing all white, it's imagery, not just for imagery's sake, it's for a reason, and it's there to kind of show you this. But I also like that he kind of murders all the other versions of himself.
Yeah.
So like that white jumper or whatever is bloodied and stuff. So it's And that's not the first time
that's what I'm saying. Can he? Because we see at a young age, he's not a good person. Suddenly he's going to be the good guy.
No, I think he's both. And I think that's like humans are both. They're both, they can do great, amazing, good things, but then they can also do some really crappy things. And nobody is all one or all the other.
Well,
like you're
when
all
William
both.
first went to the park, we thought William was a good guy.
But right? I think it proved out he wasn't 100% pure as the driven snow. Like nobody.
He has an evil side to him.
But that's where I feel like he teams up with the Bernard crew. If he's the anti-Dolores crew, like he has a chance to redeem himself, right?
Which is interesting because what he was saying at the beginning of the episode in this, group session was very almost like in the pro-Dolores camp, right? He's saying, what we're just a thin layer of bacteria on this ball of dirt hurtling into a void. All humans are meant to do is consume and excrete, use and destroy. We've squeezed any value of it, anything that we're given. Like, that's music to Dolores' ears. I'm like, humans suck. That's why we're willing to take over.
What the F is your problem?
I love that because I do love like that. I feel like that was a little meta of. Obviously, the characters in Westworld talk with such flowery language, and this feels like one of the first times that like a normal character was like, "What the hell are you saying? What are with these stupid metaphors?" Maybe I'm looking a bit too much into it, but it did feel a little meta to me of characters being like, "Okay, stop using all like these $3 words and similes." Okay.
Yep. I agree. It was an interesting scene because there's.
Well, he was also very negative, very, very, it was depressing what he was saying, right? So that's why the guy's like going.
Well, because he was talking about like this idea of like, well, I think everything's in God's plan, and obviously at this point, William is done with this idea of the game, right? This idea of having like a general orienteering force, and him saying, no, there's nothing there. So it's clear how despondent he is, which is why for his therapy they turn to these more intense measures between. The little thing at the top of the mouth that we saw Caleb had, which is yet again another confirmation that Caleb went through. That might not be a vet that is actually going through a similar thing, unless they did say it was used to treat
military
PTSD.
grade. Yeah, it was military grade. They said.
Yeah, so it could be similar, but also the AR goggles, which is just I guess to torture you or to.
It's. The whole thing was really interesting. But to me, what I did like at the end where they had the Bernard there is, or I want to ask the question, is this, and I think I know where Jack stands. Mike, maybe I'd like to know your side on this, but
I'm over here.
Him joining the Bernard crew, is this a William redemption play, or is it, or not?
Well, so the question is, again, is Dolores the hero of this story? Because that, I think, also ties into this idea of redemption. Because if it's him working against her at the moment, then maybe it isn't redemption. But also, like, if we're not siding with Dolores, does that make us, by default, side with Sirach? And given what Sirach is doing, does that make him an antagonist?
Yeah.
I think initially you wanted to look at it as three sides, right? It's the Dolores side, the Sirach side, and like the Bernard side. But I feel like the Bernard and Sirach sides are sort of doing the same thing. So it's almost like two sides.
Yeah, and that does make it interesting. It kind of muddies, like Sirach's actions in this episode muddy the waters for me just as a viewer, because, I'm a human being. While I do think humans are generally pretty awful, I do think there's also a lot of good there, and I don't think we should be, eradicated. But so I feel like I don't. I'm the Bernard school. I'm the Bernard school of approach here, not the Sirach school. But then I love Maeve, and I'm not compelled to root for Maeve either. So it is very interesting to see how these chips are falling because, Dolores is definitely at least how it's being angled, like who we should be rooting for.
Well, because I think we said before, both Dolores and Maeve went through so much.
Well, that's what Dolores, the simulation of Dolores tells Maeve, right? Like, we're not good guys, we're not bad guys, we're survivors.
Yeah, right. We're survivors, and they are. And I think you have to. How do you not root for them? But right now they're not on the same team, so it's like, who do you root for? But I don't
know. It's a fun little Rorschach test. I feel like which characters or which side you associate with says a lot about like who you are and like what you choose to value. Because again, it really just puts you in like a logical pretzel knot of, okay, well, I want to support the host. That also means that humanity at its essence, like, should be purged, and I don't want that. But then that also means opposing these characters that like could have a right to existence when previously we have treated them incorrectly. So it just it puts you in its own maze. You feel like the maze that's spray painted on the graffiti in the very episode.
Yeah. But as it's maybe Bernard and Crew and Maeve, they team up, kick out Sirach out of the equation because he's kind of a evil
loose
dude.
cannon,
and then they team up to like stop Dolores. So like, hey, can't we all just get along? Can't we have like humans and people still be cool, but get rid of
No!
I mean, that would be an interesting endgame for Westworld. That would be like to have these two species try to coexist. It would be, again, it'd feel weird that we went from Westworld to this, but it's sort of coming full circle, right? This idea of like guests and hosts existing in the park, even if the hosts don't know that the guests are guests. And now we're sort of getting a similar type of thing. Jack and I were talking about this a little bit offline in terms of Sirach, because, I mean, nobody's going to get to Sirach the way that they are now. It seems like there's always a virtual...
Yeah, he's indestructible.
Yeah, he's always a hologram. So I wonder if, again, we saw Dolores fly off in a jet. I wonder if she's going to him. Because I feel like it's one of those things of like, you got to cut off the head of the snake. And when all the snakes that you see are imaginary snakes, you have to actually go find the real one.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think there is an element where if Sirach is done this season, she's going to do it next episode, right? Or if Sirach's the big bad for the rest of the series, then, it's not going to happen. But I do think it's a good point.
Could Sirach's brother be the ultimate bad guy?
Yeah, because remember, he was one of the aberrations, right? He was put in these institutions. We also don't know what the state of these... I mean, at least we know the state of William's institution. Maybe a similar thing happened in his brother's, where everything fell apart, and now this guy, this very smart guy, but this very behaviorally out there guy is now out there in the world and also knows what Rehoboam's build is, has access to it. Like, that could be something very scary. We haven't seen a lot of Sirach right after the inside stuff, but I'm surprised he wasn't trying to tie up that loose end, at least from what we know of.
Yeah, because if say Dolores kills Sirach, then there had to be another bad person, right? I mean, there has to be some kind of twist. Okay, you killed Sirach, but then someone else steps into his shoes. I mean, there's always another evil person.
So maybe they team up to get rid of Sirach this season. Then it's truly Bernard versus Dolores. If next season's the last season,
if Bernard is against Dolores, why did she keep him alive?
Because she wants someone. And he even said it. They've said it in this season. Someone to kind of rein in maybe her worst tendencies.
I get it, but if
it's just weird because it feels like we haven't really. Maybe it just feels like he's always one step behind her. Even though it does seem here, I don't know. Maybe he's one step ahead of her because he and Stubbs were able to break out, which is interesting because last episode didn't Connell / Dolores. She gave him information about that facility. So maybe once again, she wanted him to do that. They wanted William out in this world.
Yep.
Dolores has some kind of plan.
But there's 2 episodes left, and when are we going to get the plan? Is it next week? Even though it seems like in the previews it's going to be very Caleb backstory focused, which again doesn't mean anything in this season because there's a lot of other storylines that can be thrown in. But
I mean, we've been seeing part of the plan though, right? I mean, I feel like last episode was part of the plan. I feel like blowing up Insight and leaking all the data was definitely part of the plan to create chaos. So I can imagine that maybe that was step 1, and now we're starting to see the other steps come into play and how she's going to sort of take advantage of that chaos. Again, it reminded me a lot of the first season of Mr. Robot, where again another big world event happens and you see the world crumble. I would say poor, the doctor that was taking, doing therapy with William, but it seemed like from her profile she was doing some really bad stuff.
Yeah. I did like, and we already talked about it, but to her, like, hanging herself, like, not that I like that, but just how the chaos.
I thought it was well done.
Yeah, just how,
and that was the first time
that
that Ed Harris really like had a reaction.
Yeah.
Again, I feel like to this entire asylum thing, maybe it's because of tranquilizers or just his entire sort of, I don't know, just very blank way of looking at the world at this point.
Yeah.
That was the first time he, like, when he saw her, he's like actually looked jostled.
Yeah.
Actually looked a bit thunderstruck. And that's coming from the guy that shot his own daughter. So you know that's something that definitely affected him.
He has a heart.
So true. So true. Is there anything William can do to redeem himself from killing his own daughter? Or is that there's...
Well, I guess the question is he not necessarily redeeming himself, but the fact that he both the last episode he appeared on and this one, like the fact that he acknowledged it as a choice that he made, I wouldn't say that's like a redemption thing, but I think that's definitely part of like his own coming to terms with it, you know, which is why he was haunted by Emily so much 2 episodes ago, was him, I think, just sort of being in denial, much like he was in denial about a lot of this stuff in this William meeting. And here he is just right out in front with it in the very beginning of this meeting of like, yep, I shot my own daughter. It was a lapse in judgment. My mind was confused. Like, he's already sort of working through things, but it's clear that, I mean, I'm sure when his therapist suggests you have to confront your own truth, not run away from it, she didn't mean kill all the past selves. But again, in true William fashion, like, it has to be something that violent. Otherwise, those spirits of the past are going to come back. In order to make himself a new man, he has to, like, slaughter every previous version of himself that's existed.
Barehanded. I guess there was a chair in there. It's very WWF type move. I guess WWE now. But yeah, I do think there's a chance. If Anakin Skywalker can kill younglings, but then can be a Force ghost at the end of Return of the Jedi, William can have his redemption. I'm just saying it.
I mean, to be fair, that's also his son's Force ghost, you know? So, little biased.
All right. Any other thoughts about this episode, gentlemen? There was probably a couple of things we didn't cover, but any other thoughts about this episode before we get to listener feedback?
The one thing, again, a lot of callbacks in this episode, but when when Delos was asking him, like, hey, were you just a passenger? Did your life happen to you, or did you choose it? And William's response of, if you can't tell, does it matter? One of the very first things that Angela told him, his very first time in Westworld. So again, very, very pertinent that, again, it's coming all full circle. And he also killed the version of that guy who encountered Angela with that.
Yep. Good call out. Jack, any other thoughts from this episode before we go to listener feedback?
I think we have an email from Ethan.
We do. We have Ethan's and not Ethan's, a whole bunch of emails for listener feedback this week. So let's jump into that. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. Listener feedback. All right, it's listener feedback time. Have some feedback to share with everybody.
How many
here.
Calls?
No calls. People like writing, I guess.
People are too busy calling Jack, apparently, to say what's at his front door.
Yeah, exactly. we have a doorbell thing.
Again, mute. God, so unprofessional.
Have you heard it lately?
No, I haven't. So thank you.
So stop.
Thank you for being receptive to.
I just imagine now that Jack had one of those robots, like the drones that shaved Charlotte, just like taking out anyone who goes to his porch. That's what he means by putting it on silent.
We had a FedEx guy come today. I know this is way off topic, but we had a FedEx guy come today. He rang the doorbell and he goes, "Did I deliver you a package?" And I go, I don't think so. He goes, "Did I leave it on your front porch?" I go, "Did someone steal it?" He goes, "I can't remember if I delivered it or not." I go, "How long ago was it?" He goes, 5 minutes. I go,
Wait, was that today? It is 4:20 today.
Well, that's true, actually.
I said to him, I go, "I don't know." He goes, "Well, let me go check my truck." And he did find the package.
Oh,
I mean, I guess good on him to sort of confront that in the moment rather than being like, okay, let me just get in my truck and make an assumption. But still, it's not a great sign as a customer when someone's like, hey, that I know I was supposed to do something 5 minutes ago. Do you remember if I did it or not?
And he was a younger guy. I mean, he wasn't like my age where I'd be like, I can't. I go, well, we have a camera. So I go, I don't know. And my wife, she looked and she goes, no, there was nothing delivered. I go, so he went and got the package and brought it back. And
well, luckily it was found. But yeah, hey, listen, our delivery
That's true.
employees have a lot on their shoulders right now. So.
Hats off to them.
So unlike Jack, I'm going to thank our delivery people. Thank you so much for everything that you do.
I thanked him twice. I said, thank you for bringing it back. And thank you for doing what you do.
Anyways, again, thank you to all those. Thank you to the heroes of our current COVID.
It was my Botox, so I was like really happy it came. So
thank you to all the heroes that are keeping our world afloat. Unlike Jack, who doesn't care about them, but I do. So thank you, and Mike does as well.
It's a real William here.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, if you saw me, a younger me, you would understand.
Yeah, no, I mean you and Ed Harris. Very similar trajectories, apparently.
Same. No. We aged the same. It's just,
Oh boy!
If Jack, if you just let your hair grow out a little bit more, you'd be white suit old William.
That's where we're all going to be by the end of this. Just like we're all going to be just in our own straitjackets, so we've all put ourselves into talking to versions of ourselves.
Oh my god. So true. All right, let's get into these emails. Enough chitter chatter. Let's get to it. First one up here is from Charmaine. That's a dope name. That's a great name. All right, Charmaine from Toronto. Last week, the world divided between those that thought genre was genius and those that thought changing music and filters while Aaron Paul blinked and clenched his jaw was not genius.
Actually, I wonder which side she's on.
Kind of boring. Not surprised by the divide. Surely some people watch the show high. Just surprised how many were on the genius side. I leave you to define where you landed and how high you were when you got there. But this week, at least, the underworld means more than people staring at their phones, as usual. By the way, how come no one gets good news in that data dump? What does Rehoboam give me that I couldn't get from a depressed fortune teller? Wait, it's science! A depressed actuary. Looking ahead, Charloris has set a new benchmark for mothering by calling home before she mass murders and then rising from the ashes of her bombed SUV. Will she join forces with Maeve, casting aside Dolores, who's proving to be the worst boss ever, and emerge the mother of a new species that the world has always needed? Except this seems to be Evan Rachel Wood's show. Counting on Jack to have an awesome crackpot theory about how what happened to William, worst psychotherapy ever, reveals what happened to Caleb. Charmaine, great email.
Charmaine kind of agrees with me about Dolores going against. I mean, what Charloris, whatever you call her,
Charloris.
It's Dolores joining with Maeve and going against Dolores.
Yeah, you and Charmaine are kind of aligned there on your thoughts.
And to me, I thought it was pretty obvious, but that's
I also, to go back to one of her points,
I didn't watch the episode High this week, so
not this week. I do wonder why it does seem like everyone we've seen has gotten bad news from Rehoboam. Yeah. Maybe it's like a classist thing. Maybe it's like they projected that the rich kept getting richer, because I don't think we've seen any of the Insight people or any of the Delos people get that.
They seem to be happy.
Yeah, because that's the thing, is it probably was being like, you'll just keep on your trajectory. You'll probably make even more money. Whereas those that are more middle class or lower class, like Caleb, for an example, would get this absolutely terrible projection. And that would probably lead to more class warfare, as we're seeing existing right now in the show. Yeah,
I think that's a great way to explain it. 100%. All right, Charmaine, great email. Keep emailing in. If it's you, Jack, it's some of the best writing you've ever done. All right, next up is Sasha. Hey, fellas, it's Sasha Flick again here. I'm thrilled to report that after you read my email last week and crowned me the new Ethan, life has been an absolute dream. I've been floating around like Sirach in his arrow ship and feeling all sorts of giddy, yet somewhat unearned power. I, like Sirach, have now locked away my brother Ethan and rightfully had him treated with digital adjustments and secured away in a glass-walled bedroom. Ah, success. And this was another great Westworld episode. I liked it as much as Ed Harris likes to snack on fingertips. Ugh, sorry. Is that a Jack joke?
Oh my god. Do we think that Ethan's sort of his own AR hell was like him homeschooling right now? But it's just all his son?
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, here are a few of my hot takes to add to the mix of what I am sure has definitely been a brilliant and insightful discussion from each of you already. Oh, thank you, Sasha. See, this is where you're even better than Ethan. Like, you compliment us, you're kind and witty, like, way better.
Well, she lied about two of you.
For some reason, I hadn't noticed until now the use of anamorphic lensing in the simulated world, aka Warworld. It's a helpful delineation of worlds, to be sure. Side note, Sam Esmail's show Homecoming also played around with the aspect ratios as a storytelling device.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that last season a bit, too, where it was the difference between being in the cradle and being outside, where the cradle, I think, had the widescreen bars on top of it, and when you were outside of it, you wouldn't see it.
Yep, exactly. And if you guys haven't watched that, I highly recommend it. Sirach trying to eliminate the host as a species, it's not unlike Hitler and his evil Holocaust. Perhaps that's why Warworld is being used to make the comparison all the more clear. Interesting. You could add a jazzy slow drum to William's group therapy nihilist diatribe, and it would be classic beat poetry. Yeah. That's a little bit of bass, a little bit of double bass, upright bass, and some bongos. The elevator scene with Charlotte and the security guard. That's what Solange wanted us to do to Jay-Z in that elevator at the meatball.
I thought that was a really fun thing. I liked how the guy who stepped on hadn't gotten the communique yet that she was like public enemy number one. So he's like, oh, hope you're having a great day. Do. Oh, what's that? Okay. And then as soon as she hears that, she like just goes into fight mode. And finally, my wife Angela was complaining the entire time about how she didn't take the damn like cape coat thing off, and it was only then that she did so.
Yes.
We didn't talk about it. That was a great fight scene.
Yeah, I mean Tessa Thompson kicked ass this episode in more ways than one.
Yes. I mean she was the Terminator.
It was her. There's a scene where she turned sideways. It could have been a stunt person, but other than that, it looked like it was all her.
Yeah, can we just talk about how the use of stunt people doesn't work in HD or 4K? Because I've watched some older movies, and it's just like, oh, that's clearly a stunt person. If you watch any 60s Westerns on TV, clearly it's not. But like old TVs and stuff, like you probably didn't notice it, but now it's like clear. But anyway, that's a...
I mean, you could also say that about like wigs, too, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this episode... Love Evan Rachel Wood, but it's very clear that was not her real hair when it was, simulation Dolores talking to Maeve.
Yes. Lost had the best wigs. The best. That's well-known facts.
Oh, Young Jack. Or Pot Farmer Locke.
Boone.
Oh, Boone. Whew. Anyway. The fact that hosts can change by virtue of what they experience truly underscores the nature versus nurture argument, but applied in this new non-human way, even as hosts, they can be affected by the how, what, and with whom they interact with. Interesting that we get 5 Williams and we had 5 Doloreses. Dolori? Yeah.
It's interesting we don't get like a middle stage. I guess is middle stage William the Jimmy Simpson William? Like I feel like
so.
We still maybe they just didn't want to bring in another actor between that William and Ed Harris.
Could have like age-ified William a bit, I guess.
Yeah, or like youngified Ed Harris. I guess it's easier to because you could probably use prosthetics to make Jimmy Simpson older, whereas you'd have to use CGI to make Ed Harris look younger.
But there's just things like people are using. They even showed how they could use deep fake technology in The Irishman, where it actually looks better than the youngifying of people. Like, they could have just gotten some older footage of Ed Harris and then, like, deep fake the face on there. And
that's interesting, yeah.
Fine. But there's a few
like
ways
a lot of work.
Yeah. Cheaper than whatever not Hasbro. I was thinking Hasbro. Marvel did in the Avengers. But anyway, also in Hollywood update news, Jimmy Simpson has either gotten some really good work done or gotten a digital facelift. He is looking smooth and ageless.
Yeah, maybe they wasted it on him instead of using it on Ed Harris.
Maybe that is, yeah.
Charlotte's recipe for self-care following this episode soaks in an entire bathtub filled with cold milk while taking an epic bong hit and listening to Shaka Khan's Through the Fire on repeat. In my opinion, the biggest pressing question getting us into the next episode is just like the ending of season 2. Who is getting the invite to the real world via the host spheres? Who are Maeve's abilities? I would wager possibly Clementine. Allies. Who are Maeve's allies? I would wager Clementine and maybe Hainro To Okamoto. Guessing it could possibly be an army of women. We're looking forward to the Caleb.
Oh yeah. That was the Maeve avatar in Shogun World.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but no, I'm not gonna say no.
Cheers.
Actually, you know what? I might actually put in a late bid for that because I think seeing Musashi this season makes you realize, like, okay, I guess they are acknowledging the Shogun World characters, and Maeve really bonded with her, obviously. Yeah. So I could see if Maeve wanted help, she would actually be a good person. Like, she's not afraid to be bloody. Let's remember when she cut that guy's face open with the needles.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Sasha, great work. Cheers to you, Jay, Jack, and Mike. Sasha.
Good evening,
great
Sasha.
Email again. Much better than Ethan. All right, next up, it's not Ethan.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Hi, it's Ethan. We are all Ethan. Not really. We're pearls inside an Ethan. Love forever, not Ethan.
Short and sweet.
But there's another one. Dear Jay, Jack, not Jack, and Mitch. Unfortunately, I didn't finish my earlier email. My AR therapy was interrupted. But don't worry, I'm not a hologram. This episode of Westworld was great. I'm very excited to see what Bernard and William story we have coming our way. However, I find it a little easy writing that Charlotte was blown up, but they didn't make sure she was finished off. Now, instead of being a redeemed Charlotte, she'll be hellbent on helping Dolores wreak havoc. Realistically, they should have made sure she had gotten taken out. Until next week, my friends, not Ethan.
Again, I think it might have been planned.
You think it was planned that they would blow up and she wouldn't?
That they didn't double tap her because I think she's going to go after Dolores. I mean, it just makes sense to me.
I mean, it is important to note that, remember, Sirach knew that she's a host. So if indeed the person that, used the rocket launcher on her car were Sirach's men, to Jack's point, he would know that they were firing upon a host, and maybe assumingly he would know that they would be able to survive something that maybe humans would not be able to.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But yeah, I guess from a story perspective, which I think not Ethan's more asking for, I think we can sort of put a pin in this question until a couple weeks from now. Like, I find it tough to answer this question until we see what she does. If it's just this, if she ends up not really doing anything, then yeah, you could say, why didn't they just kill her off with the family? That would be much more of a big ending to her arc. If she does play this big role and ends up being, the Brutus to Dolores' Caesar, even if we speculated that Caleb would be that person, then yeah, now it makes sense as to why she ends up crawling out of that car wreck.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And also remember too, she's got emotions, and she's not Charlotte. She's not the original Charlotte Hale who would have been, okay, that's all right. I didn't like my kid anyway. So there's a different, she's got feelings and she's going to have anger.
Mm-hmm.
I do love that Charlotte Hale response to like, well, oh, great. Well, one less mouth to feed. Perfect.
Yeah.
Ready to move on.
I had a great insurance policy on both.
Oh, man. All right. Next up, we have an email from the Ethan.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're all out of time.
Yeah. Sorry, Ethan. No, Dear Jay, Jack, and Mike, what follows is a 500-page essay of why I believe Kylo Ren, the one true Jedi, is actually the spawn of Baby Yoda and Snai Snoodles. His embryonic fetus gestated over years inside Bib Fortuna's massive double-pronged head ganglia for millennia before sprouting into a robust latter-day goth Jesus. Oh, wait, no, it's not, because this is a Westworld podcast. Talking to you, not Ethan.
I hope you happy that not Ethan stayed on topic this episode.
Yeah, no Star Wars questions there. Let me address not Ethan for a second. Get it together, man. Let's face it. We are like Todd from Breaking Bad and Megan from Mad Men. We are at the end of the line here. The train is slowly pulling into the station, and we were lucky to get a seat on the Wrap It Up Express. You know, listening to Jay and Jack and getting your feedback read is amazing, but not quite as amazing as it used to be. Let's face it, my friend. We are more Alana than Ana Lucia, more Phil Leotardo than Richie April. Everybody loves John Locke, but they also hate the Man in Black. So please, don't waste everybody's time by making Jay read horribly long-winded, wordy emails that have nothing to do with the show you're supposed to be writing about. Not cool, man. Not cool. Westworld? What's a Westworld? Ethan. Woo!
Well, I love that.
Shots fired.
We're talking about who's going to be on Maeve's side, who's going to be on Dolores' side, who's on Sirach's side. There's lines drawn. It's like everyone's against Ethan.
Well, it's Sasha is against Ethan, but she has her own play, and then not Ethan is definitely against Ethan, and then
right.
Ethan
so the question is, are Sasha and Ethan, not Ethan, going to work together?
Yeah,
or are they still like maybe Sasha's like, not Ethan, you're a bit too extreme with your approach to Ethan. Like, I don't know if I can work with you.
This is a big deal.
Yeah,
I can't wait for the reveal.
It'd be interesting. Last email. And I want to pronounce your name right. I think it's Sids. S-I-D-S-E. Sidsi. Or just Sidza. Like Mitch. Oh, Sids. Is that what she's saying? I'm curious about what kind of chaos we would see from the Insight leak and whether a virtual Lee Sizemore can outperform Hector on the charm attribute he learned from Maeve. Did anyone get a little cat's cradle from the plausible psychiatrist's quick undoing and fully empty or half-empty high-ceiling institution? Combined with the Season 3's empty streets and self-isolating society, people complain about the car chase in 305, but they drive slow enough and things have sparse out enough in real life. I'm pretty sure they can refilm it in that same style right now in real life Chicago without any need for road closures or anything.
It was interesting watching like the after the show thing when they were. I mean, it was really not even focused on thematic stuff. It was more so about like the effect of blowing the car up, and they're like, obviously we couldn't blow a car up on a real street. It's like, actually nowadays you can probably get away with it because there's not going to be a lot of cars out there.
Exactly.
Well, they used to do it back in the old days before CGI. They had stunt people that they would blow up cars in the streets, and
I agree.
Because we were talking last night about the car chase from the week before. I said, back in the French Connection or Steve McQueen and Bullet and all this, the car chases were real. I mean, they're obviously choreographed, but it was real. I mean, it was real cars. There was a chance they could flip over, and now we have the CGI thing. So it's like,
I think it was a real car chase, and they still do real car chases now. I mean, the Fast and the Furious franchise. Have you seen those? Those are completely real.
I don't waste my time with that. No, sorry.
All right. If there's accidentally a non-black or pre-2020 Jeep in frame, they can paint it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, Tessa Thompson. Episode 6, how the F did they build such an intense fight sequence out of little clips they got at random times during filming throughout the season? Per TT with Jonah Robinson on Still Watching, she has become such a powerful presence in the show. I had no idea she had that kind of chops. Best regards, Sits.
I agree.
Yeah, this was a really good episode for Tessa Thompson. And she's, I mean, again, if you consider the work that she's doing, we talked about this a bit with like Evan Rachel Wood in the first 2 seasons, right? That she was sort of weighing between like the Wyatt side and the sweet Dolores side. That's sort of what Tessa Thompson is doing this season with Charlotte, where she is constantly weighing between 2 different personas. And it's been really, really fun to watch. I feel like this has been like a great season for Tessa Thompson. I feel like this has been a great season for Ed Harris. Specifically, like those are the big 2 that I feel like have done. I mean, maybe it's just because their characters have become like the most depth or deep three-dimensional or even four-dimensional, but I feel like they're putting in really, really great performances in particular.
They are. And Aaron Paul, some of his best work.
Aaron Paul, yeah. Someone argues some better than some of his previous work.
Yeah, like arguably his best work.
His best work since Big Love. I can't think of another show he was on.
But I agree, because there was this moment in this episode where Ed Harris just gave a look, and it was just a look. It's all it was, but it was incredibly impactful. And I was just like, that is acting. Like, I don't know what acting is. I'm not an actor, but that is acting, because it was like just a really moving thing, and it's just a slight facial expression. It was so subtle.
Well, he's been a great actor for a long time.
Exactly. Like, that's like somebody that has honed their craft, knows how to do it, and it's really
like for the first season when they were able to get him, they were able to get
Anthony Hopkins.
I mean, those are two heavyweights, and then you get the other cast members who were either coming into their own or they were already there. So it's like,
well, it's interesting because as great as Anthony Hopkins was, he wasn't showing a lot of emotional depth, and that's something I really enjoyed about this season with him as well, is that we see the Man in Black become more unglued this season, and as a result, it does give sort of Ed Harris more to do, and we really see it here, where again he has this nihilist view of things at the beginning of the episode, but the more he gets subjected to these treatments, the more weak we see him, and to have him make that rise back up to the status at the end, I think is like a really nice mini arc within this episode, and I think gave Ed Harris a lot to do as well. Definitely different shades of this character and this person than we've seen before, which has usually been like the very steely veneer that he walks through the park with because he knows that there are no stakes to it.
Do you think a guy like Ed Harris, could go to the writers and stuff like that and say, okay, you need to give me more to work with, give me more depth, more, or it's just, because I'm sure a lot of actors do that. It's like, okay, you're just, I'm not testing myself. You need to get something where it's.
Well, it's interesting because, before we came on here, was reading an interview that your friend of mine, Josh Wigler of The Hollywood Reporter, did with Ed Harris. And Ed Harris vocalized that he did not like the direction that his character was going in. He fully admitted to that. So,
really?
Yeah, he did. And he didn't say whether or not he talked with him about it. But I do wonder if maybe his lack of happiness with the direction with his character was palpable enough that they said, okay, let's go in a different direction with this character, whether it was coincidental that they decided to explore who the Man in Black is. We again still have a question mark with this character, because at a certain point, we do know he's going to end up in that Delos-like simulation where Emily's going to be confronting him years down the line. So I guess the question is, he may have this redemption story, but at the end of the day, it might come back to this fidelity test as well. And how does he end up getting to that place?
Well, it just seems to me he's got the kind of clout that he could probably, request.
I hope not, because I feel like, but also most actors are, I don't know. There's very few that would be that tool-ish.
I'm not, but I don't think it's being a tool. If you're making the show better.
Like an actor, I'm
not saying he went there and said, "Look, either change it or you kill me off." I'm saying maybe he went there with some suggestions. Look, I need something that's gonna.
But don't writers hate actors that come in with suggestions for their own role? Like, I feel like
this is not Friends with Joey, okay?
Well, that's the thing. It depends. I've been reading the oral history of Star Trek, and that was definitely a qualm with the original series. Was that like Shatner and Nimoy would come in and be like, I don't think Kirk would do that in this scene. But I feel like it depends on the person.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder, even if it's third season, if Westworld's enough of a collaborative experience that if Ed Harris comes in and is like, I think we could explore this, personality capacity, that they'd be like, oh, that's interesting, let's explore it. Or if it's like, I trust where the writers are going, so I'm just going to let them do it, and I'll sort of follow them along, and it just happens to luck out that this happens to be a big season where William gets to explore himself.
I mean, this could have been the plan the whole time. I just always wonder about stuff like that.
Yeah, it's true. Well, at least now we
know
Jack,
because it does happen. We know it does happen.
Yeah. At least now we know, Jack, how you would be an actor on a set.
Oh, I'd be. You wouldn't want me on this set. They'd have to change my trailer every day. It'd be.
I said no brown M&Ms.
Yes, I do like the brown.
Now bring me my Botox.
CGI to make me look younger.
All right.
Actually, at this stage in my career, I probably wouldn't have any say at all. I'd be like, old man, get out of here.
you'd probably be doing our podcasts, which you're already doing. So you're ready to go.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for your feedback. Again, you send an email to westworldjjm@gmail.com or send a phone call to 385-390-3111. All right, Jack. It's time for your crackpot theory of the week. Sasha's really excited about it. And I know all the other listeners are as well. What do you got for us?
Well, I think I talked about most of it during the show, being who's going to be the who Maeve sees and all that different stuff. But I decided to. I think the talk that Dolores and Maeve had when they were going back and forth, and they're basically, they're kind of tell each person, you have this flaw, you have this flaw, but at the end they should be working together. Is what I was getting from it. I think that Maeve is playing a con on Sirach, and she's going to kill him.
Ooh, I think that'd be a really fun way to end the season of we're talking about, who's the closest confidant to betray Dolores.
Right.
If it's the closest confidant of Sirach to be the one to betray him, that could be a very interesting way to get rid of the character.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I believe that Maeve is going to be the one to kill him.
I think it's a good theory.
Because who else can get close to him?
Yeah, and also the irony that he is doing all this to prevent an artificial uprising, and if Maeve got Sirach to enlist help for her in order to just kill him, he sort of has produced his own outcome.
Yeah.
Now, not that Maeve is going to work with Dolores, but it's too early for Dolores to die, and it's too early for Maeve to die. So they were two of the main characters last season. They're still two very strong characters, so you can't get rid of, they're not. It's not time to get rid of them yet.
Yep.
Yeah, I could see a situation where Maeve kills Sirach, but Maeve basically tells Dolores this doesn't mean we're on the same side, and now it's now they're actually against each other, and what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Maeve says, I disapprove of what you're doing, but what Sirach was doing to us was inhuman. Almost.
Right.
Considering, I can imagine if Maeve finds out what Sirach was doing and torching the entirety of cold storage, that it doesn't have to land well with a host.
Because we thought that Maeve and Dolores were going to work last season together, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it didn't happen. So
we thought this season too, and after her killing Hector, definitely not going to be now. So
no, she's mad now.
You've made her angry.
Oh yeah,
you don't like her when she's angry. All right, well, that's your crackpot theory, and
I'm sticking to it.
All right, you all right there?
Yes. That was younger Jack.
Oh, okay.
Exciting.
All right, Howard Dean. Anyways, that'll do it for this episode of Westworld with Jay, Jack, and Mike. Give us an email at westworldjjm@gmail.com. Also send a phone call to 385-309-0311.
I wasn't listening.
Call anytime.
You did the big plug a few minutes ago anyway, so.
In fairness. Join our Facebook group at facebook.com/group/JayandJackGroup. If you use Amazon, use the link jayandjack.com/Amazon. And we want to especially thank people that make this show possible. Especially, that was two especiallys, ladies and gentlemen. Tack from Tokyo, Eckhart Richter, Maggie the Magnificent, Joanne with the Plan, Ed the Creepy Mailman, Drake the Destroyer, and Greg the Gray. Thank you to all of the patrons of our podcast network. You can find a full list at jayandjack.com, and you can find the link to become a patron at jayandjack.com, whether you give $1 or more a month. It helps make these shows possible, but we also understand in this current pandemic, if you can't, really, just enjoying sending in feedback, whatever you can do to support the show, even giving a review on iTunes helps.
Actually, if you want to send an email, it could be a quick one. I'm on Ethan or not Ethan's side.
Ooh.
I mean, I think that's.
Are we inciting the Ethan versus not Ethan war?
I think we need to. Address this. It's been going on for 3 years. 3 seasons. It's
been going on for a minute. Is this our season finale?
It's time to put that line in the sand and take a side, people.
For our because we usually do a live show for the last episode. Do we need to set up a live Ethan v not Ethan?
Yeah, I think so.
What is that is that our pre-show? That's the the opener.
It's not a bad idea. I don't know. We're all quarantined. We gotta have something to entertain ourselves. Let's put them in a Thunderdome. Let's see what happens.
If they're destroying each other, what's the harm in us betting, right?
Exactly. We'll put odds on it. And then Sasha's the one that rises from the ashes.
Yeah. Exactly.
But anyway. All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode. Mike, you are quite possibly have the greatest body of podcasting work of anyone I've ever met in my life.
Body.
I thought you were going somewhere else with that. I'm not going.
Especially post your new quarantined haircut. It's fantastic. Inspired me. I trimmed my hair this yesterday. What?
He got the sides done.
Well, I did it. I shaved the sides of my head.
I thought you were supposed to buzz it.
I'm not buzzing it. Look at this.
I thought that's what you said last week.
Look at this good head of hair. I could be you, Jack. I gotta praise. I gotta keep this thing vertical. True. So, Mike, this has to be a busy season for you with Survivor on and all that kind of stuff. But where can people find your fantastic work?
At a Mike Bloom type is where I put everything out, including writing and podcasting. I'll keep it short because we're running super long. But yeah, I did a lot of stuff these past couple weeks. But yeah, I publicize it all on my Twitter and Instagram at a Mike Bloom type. So check it out if you're interested.
Boom. All right. Well, that will do it. We'll see you all next time. Hasta luego and goodbye.
Bye, Hector.
Aw.
You play Boys to Men is too. Go ahead, sorry.
I love it.